So I think that's great. I think the challenge is this too, where she's never allowed the failure to happen, right? She's
Right. There you
always
go.
swooped in, right?
Right.
So
And
let's say
rescued, right?
and rescued, as opposed to trusting him so much where even if we're at the fail point, it's like I'm going down with the ship, right? So if you look
And
at
how
it like
about trusting
Titanic,
God enough to say, God will
come,
give him wisdom. And
God
I'm
will
going to come
speak to him.
alongside. I didn't mean to cut you off, brother,
Yes.
but I'm going to come
No, you got that.
alongside you,
Yeah.
encourage you, give you wisdom from the sideline, cheer you on and say, baby, you can
Yep.
do this.
You
And
can do
maybe
this.
we can do X, Y, and Z instead of coming in and say, no,
Right.
I got it.
It feels good, y'all. Just feels so good to be alive. Just to breathe this air free of charge. It just feels good to be in Christ, you know. Just to know that He got me and He got you. It feels good.
I'm blessed. Every morning that I rise, got my health and my strength. Thank the Lord that I'm alive. I'm blessed.
Welcome to Excellent Husbands Podcast, a podcast for husbands, by husbands. We are your hosts. I'm Tim Baldwin.
And I'm Saleem Wright. And we thank you guys for getting on to week 2, episode 2 of our podcast. And so we're starting off with trending topics for this week. Last week we talked about Bill Gates and Melinda Gates getting their divorce. I'm trying to think what else is going on in the world. Kind of
Man, it's a lot. It's a lot going on in the world. They're about to open the world back up.
They're
about to open up the world.
Man, how you feeling about that? As far as them opening the world back up?
I'm not sure because of. I think I have COVID hangover, man. I think I have COVID hangover. To be honest with you, sometimes it's like, you get to a space where I've gotten to a space where, we're wearing these masks. We're worried about who has this, who has that. And am I going to get it? Is my family going to get it? Up to this point, the Lord has been good to us.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how I feel about it. I'm glad that it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
I'm ready for things to get back to normal. I'm not sold on the vaccine. I don't have anything against anybody who wants to get it or who feels like they want to get it. I'm not one of those conspiracy theorists in terms of, the mark of the beast and those kind of things. I am a conspiracy theorist a little bit where, I'm not sure. I'm not sold on it yet. The government doesn't have my 100% trust in terms of that. I would like to see a little bit more data in terms of long-term data before I decide to get it or not, So that's where I am with the whole thing. But I am glad that the world is, is opening back up. That sounds strange that the world is opening back up. But yeah, how you feeling about that, man?
I don't know, man. I've struggled with it because it's impacted relationships. These are my immediate family, because my sister lives far, my brother lives far, so I haven't really had to spend much time with them in over a year, which is not something I'm used to. So struggling with family events, family functions, going or not going. When you do go, wearing a mask, social distancing, and all of that. So yeah, that's
it just alienates you, man, from so much.
It's so frustrating, which is everything. I'm not against the vaccine at all. That is something I'm just waiting on because I'm like praying for herd immunity. And I think my genuine prayer, my sincere prayer is that if someone tells me they got COVID, I look at it like they got the flu, because I don't necessarily think the virus is going anywhere. I know people have tried to eradicate it in the spirit realm, blow it away or whatever, and it's still here. So I'm very serious about my health and making sure my family's safe. So I believe in keeping your social distance and wearing your mask as preventative measures. I don't think those things can 100% stop you from contracting the virus. They just lower the chances, I would say. Whereas you have some people, especially in our faith in Christianity. They're just like, man, I don't social distance. I don't wear no mask. I don't care. And they be the ones to catch it and spread it and all that. So, you know,
Right.
I just kind of like looking forward to the world opening back up, but opening back up to do what exactly, I don't know. So, yeah, that's been challenging with the virus and stuff. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Definitely. I think it's coming up around Memorial Day here in Philadelphia.
That's
in
a big
Philly.
holiday.
PA is earlier than that. I think like the state is doing something earlier, and then Philly is doing something a little further out. And so I was actually having a conversation with my pastor yesterday about it, and his plan is to wait for a little bit, and to stop registration in like June or July to see how things go. And so we'll see, man. I'm praying, brother. I'm praying, and the Lord will give us wisdom.
Let me ask
forward.
you this. You may or may not know this. I know at your church, the social distancing and the masks are a part of the deal. When do you think that will no longer be part of what you guys do, in your mind, your estimation?
Yeah, I really don't know. You're right about that. It's a good question. I think part of it will be the that herd immunity piece, like you talked about. When and if that happens, the amount of people who have been vaccinated, you know, if you get to 85% of Philadelphia being vaccinated, then I think it's safe to say, okay, maybe we can lower some of our, you know, our standards. But I don't know. You know, it could be a year from now. You know, it could be a year from now. You know, even if we open up our church a little bit more, which I plan to do in the next coming months, based on how things and numbers go, I'm gonna still require our church to wear masks for now, just because everybody's not vaccinated, and you know. And then I suspect that people will probably be wearing masks for a very long time.
I concur.
You know, to protect themselves.
Yeah.
You know, and
I just think my thought is around the mandating of masks, because you know, most businesses, you have to wear masks before entry.
Right.
And the encouraging of 6 feet once you're inside the business. I haven't seen a situation where the businesses have said, we can't serve you because you're too close to each other or something like that. So
Right.
I agree with you. I think it's going to be a long time before people are not wearing masks. Our church will maintain social distance and mask wearing in our area. We out in the country, so it ain't a lot of social. I mean, the businesses are holding strong, but I done been in some places where I'm like, wait a minute, there's still Corona around, right? It's just like, nah, we free, you know.
Some folks out there,
like, man, I don't know if I got as much faith as those folks, because the faith that they got is like, look, this virus come nigh my dwelling place, Psalm 91, the blood. And I'm like,
right.
I'm with you on all that, but you need to back up, because you know what I'm saying?
I think it's gonna be a little bit, man. It's gonna be a little bit, you know, and we just have to see, you know, and you know, take our time and be safe, and when the time comes, we'll say, hey, listen, if you want to wear a mask, you can, but you don't have to. You know, I look forward to that day. I look forward to that time.
I
look forward to that.
I look forward to that time for sure. And we're going to get right back into our topic from last week. She won't let me lead. And this is part 2. How do you lead? Right? I got that right? How do you lead?
Yeah, how do you lead? We want to give some practical tips, man, some practical advice as to how you lead, brothers. How do you get in position to lead your family? You know, how do you get in position to be a leader in your home? And this is going to be a group effort. If you know, husband, your wife is going to have to buy into this. She's going to have to be a part of this process. You know, when you look at your wife and her role as helper, That's the whole key, because the Lord says it's not good for man to be alone. So I'm going to send him a helper, someone who is suitable to help you in the areas that you need help in. Right?
Now,
it didn't say I'm going to send you a leader.
No, they was right there. Some will read that. I'm going to send you a leader who is going to whip you into shape. And
it's so listen, I pray that wives watch this too, man, because wives, you're gonna have to learn how to let them lead. You're gonna let me say this, wives, you might not like what I'm about to say, but it's the truth anyway. And letting him learn to lead, sometimes he's going to lead and he's going to make mistakes. You have to factor in for mistakes. Here's the problem. Sometimes wives don't give us room to make mistakes. Right? We are leaders. We are excellent husbands, not perfect husbands. Right? We're learning to be excellent in our position as husband. And so there are going to be times, wifey, where he's going to make a decision that may not pan out. But if you brothers, if you learn to lead well, those occurrences will be far and few between, right? And so you'll lead well more than not leading well. And so in leading, many times it comes down to an issue of trust, right? Because of your track record. So brothers, you can't expect your wife to follow you and you don't lead, you don't have the desire to lead, or you lead in a way that has been detrimental to the family, right? Or to the relationship. And so yes, from a biblical perspective, her responsibility is to follow you, but you have to give her something sound to follow, right? Yeah. You have to give her something sound to follow. It's almost like, and Pastor Saleem and I, we both can attest to this, I'm sure. People want to think this, but the fact of the matter is, and I know for me personally, I know my wife did not trust me when I said I do on day one. She didn't trust me fully.
Yep.
She didn't.
I agree.
She needed to see my track. Yeah.
When y'all got married, but
yeah. He said, "Yep." She sure didn't. She didn't trust that dude. He was
talking about me. Yeah, I know.
Boy, Shady Maples. She didn't trust him. But initially, our wives don't trust us 100%. And so what happens is we have to build up our trust. That's the nature of relationships, right? You need a track record. So brothers, I'm going to ask you today, what's your track record of leadership today in your household? What's your track record? Is your track record he always messes up the money? He never does things on time. He's a super procrastinator. He's never motivated. And so if that's the track record that you have displayed, right, then that's what you give your wife. You give her that model to go off of. And it's hard for her to follow you. It's hard for her to trust your leadership when she knows that if I don't do this, he's going to let the lights go out.
So I think that's great. I think the challenge is this too, where she's never allowed the failure to happen, right?
Right.
She's always swooped in, right?
Right.
So
and rescued, right?
And rescued, as opposed to trusting him so much where even if we're at the fail point, it's like, I'm going down with the ship, right? So if you look at
how about trusting God enough to say, God will give him wisdom. And I'm going to come alongside. I didn't mean to cut you off, brother, but I'm going to come alongside you, encourage you, give you wisdom from the sideline, cheer you on and say, baby, you can do this. And maybe we can do X, Y, and Z instead of coming in and say, no, I got it. You always messing it up. Let me do it.
That's that when we talked about last episode about the model. If the model that she's been put in her since she was little is, no matter what, you gotta handle it. You gotta deal with it. You gotta come to the rescue, right? When she gets married to a man, let's say his area of weakness is, I don't know, like dealing with kids. He's never dealt with kids his entire life, right? And so now she's afraid to leave him with the kids because she thinks he gonna break one of them, house gonna burn down, yada yada yada. So let's say the kids are right around that age where they can call mommy, right? And so
Right.
a woman who's never let her husband figure it out, she'll get a call from her son and she'll be like, I gotta go home. My son just called me. And then get home and he's like, why are you here? Like, but he called, like, it don't matter if he called you. Even if he called, said, mommy, the house is on fire. You gotta trust that I'm not gonna let the house get on fire, right? Like, you gotta trust that even if the house is on fire, I got everybody out the house. Like that level of trust where it's like, I'm trusting him even if we're past the deadline, even if we're past whatever. And I think that's difficult. That difficulty is there because of what we talked about last time, those models.
Yeah.
But that trust is crucial. That trust is crucial. And practically, how does a man who feels like their wife does not trust them, how do they get their wife to trust them? Like, she's never relinquished control in various areas. Like, so how does he even broach that conversation? You know? Like, you've never let me do this at any point in the marriage.
Wow. Brother, you starting trouble, man. This is only our second episode. But that's so true.
Yeah.
Bro, listen, it's so true because again, we know husbands who have been in relationships where it's like the wife doesn't let them do anything. She gonna make sure it happens. Again, it's that alpha female thing, right? Yeah. And I don't fault my sisters. I don't fault them at all because it's what they know, right? Then again, we talk about context, right? Depending on her context. If you have a single mom, if you marry a single mom, right? You marry a single mom and she's been single for a while. She has a child at 7, 8, 9 years old. She's been making life happen on her own without a man for 6, 7, 8 years old. And so here's what happens to her. She becomes a survivor. Right. And so when she gets into the relationship, in survival mode.
Yeah.
Where she doesn't know how to turn off survival mode. And in her mind, if I don't do this, it does not happen. And so we have to teach our sisters as well that they can let down their survival mode guard and allow the man to come in and to help and to lead so that she doesn't have all of the responsibilities. It's no coincidence that Paul writes that the wife is, or the woman is, the weaker vessel, right? And not, again, sisters, not in terms of inferiority, but in terms of capacity to handle stress, right? Capacity to handle life. And so husband comes, husband has the broader shoulders, right?
The broad shoulders,
Right. So he should be able to handle more than you, but you have to allow him to. Sisters, I know it's hard. I know. And so Pastor Saleem, it's like, you have couples who've been married for 8 years and the wife has always led.
Always.
And here we come starting trouble, telling them
every major area. She makes decisions. She checks everything and she does it all. He's like, at some point, I feel like women get tired of that.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they have to because they're not built for that.
No, right.
They're not built to carry a family.
Right. Yeah.
They're not built to carry the burdens of a family.
Yeah.
They're built to help him carry the burdens, right?
Yeah. So,
Paul writes something in Galatians 6, chapter Galatians 6 verse 1. He talks about, he says, bear you one another's burdens, right? And then further down in the text, he says, around verse 5, he says, each man should learn to carry his own load, right? And so I'm like, okay, Paul, is it help carry the burdens of your brothers, or is it carry your own load? Which one is it, right? Like, are you schizophrenic in writing this? Right? It's like you telling us to carry our own burden. You telling us to bear one another's burdens, and then later on and this later, 5 verses later, you say that we should each man should carry his own burden. And so it's two ways to look at that. The first one is, the obvious one is bear each other's burdens, right? And as husbands and wives, we're still brothers and sisters in the Lord, right? So this applies to us, right? That's still my sister. My wife is still my sister in the Lord. Yes, I'm her husband. Yes, I'm her leader. But there is a siblinghood in terms of who we are in Christ, right?
Yeah.
And so I am to bear the burdens of my brothers, and that burden there is rock or boulder, right? It's really translated into something that is too heavy for your brother or sister to carry on their own, right?
Yeah.
And then when you look at verse 5 where it says that we should carry our own load, these are the loads that we are responsible to carry on our own, that we can handle on our own, that we sometimes shirk, right? The responsibility because somebody else can do it. And that's what happens sometimes. That's what happens sometimes in the marriage, where you have the alpha female and the male who is not as dominant, and you're trying to learn how to lead. It's like, okay, I've been doing this for so long. I've been doing this for so long, for 7 years. I know how to just give her the load and allow her. And so we're going to have to undo some things and undo some mindsets in terms of that. But here's the first thing I would say, Pastor Saleem. Here's the first thing I would say. If you're in that situation where your wife doesn't let you lead, for whatever the issues are, we've already laid out some of the possible issues. For whatever the issues are, the first thing that you have to do, obviously, is have a talk with the Lord, right? To align your heart with the Lord. And then you talk with your wife about what that looks like and what are her expectations of you as a husband. I know it hasn't happened up to this point, and I guarantee you much of the frustration that happens in your home happens because you're not leading in a way that you have been created to lead, whether she's not allowing you to, or you don't know how to, or you're being, again, whatever the issues are, the first two things, talk to God and then talk to your wife and say, babe, hey, listen, here is what I know I should be doing. Own up, brothers.
Yeah.
Own up, be honorable in this endeavor, and say, you know what? I know that I've not led the way I should have been leading. And I recognize the stress that it puts on the home, the stress that it puts on you. I want to remove that stress from you. And I want to talk to you in terms of expectations. Now, I'm not going to be perfect in the beginning, but I need your grace. I need your encouragement. I need you to cheer me on. And I need you to walk alongside me as I learn how to lead better, brother. That's a good place to start.
I mean, I think that's phenomenal, man. I think that's phenomenal. There's something I learned early on in life. I call it my theory of expectations. And so everybody I meet, I give them an opportunity to show me their character. Absolutely. Once someone shows me their character, I categorize them into levels of expectation. So, for example, when I first met my wife, nice, pleasant young lady, was in seminary together, cool, she was nice. I learned over time she's someone that I can expect a lot of because she's demonstrated a character of integrity. So when it comes to my expectations of her, I have extremely high expectations of her because of her character. And then I met people in my life that I look at them like, I felt like they were shady. They showed me they were shady. So I have extremely low expectations of them. And so I categorize people based on their character. And so when someone shows me a character that's not trustworthy, I put them in a low category. So it allows me to guard myself against disappointment. Like, you may know somebody that's always late to everything. So when I invite them to something, I know they're going to be late. So if they show up late, I'm not disappointed because I expected them to be late because they demonstrated they can't be on time. So I think when it comes to marriages, each person has expectations of the other. And I think what you said was key, of asking, what are your expectations of me? Because oftentimes we have unmet expectations in our marriages and we're extremely disappointed, angry, frustrated with the other person, but they have no clue what we expect of them. Even though they may be Christians married together, the Christians may not have a biblical expectation of a spouse that they can articulate or they even know. So they're like, you frustrate me because of X. And he may be saying, why do you expect me to do X? That's not what I'm supposed to do, right? Like, you may have a young lady that's like, I expect you, let's say she has a high sex drive, right? She's like, I expect every night for you to come in here and blow me away in the bedroom. And he's like, that's not a realistic expectation. Like,
Lord.
You know what I'm saying? That's like, and it might be the other way around. Maybe he's like, I expect every night for you to do me right and all this. And she's like, why do you expect that of me? Right? Because maybe in his mind, a wife is supposed to at every moment please me sexually. No matter what time of day, no matter how she's feeling, she's supposed to do this to me, right? So if the expectations aren't articulated, then the individuals will have all this disappointment. So I think that first conversation that you talked about, what are your expectations? Whatever they are, let's just lay them out. What do we expect of each other? And so once we get that on the table, I think the second step is, or the third step, because you said pray, you said have the conversation with your wife. The topic of the conversation is the expectations, because that may eliminate the disappointment if we have unmet expectations or unrealistic expectations or past expectations because of relationships. Many people are expecting their spouse to do what their boyfriend did, and they're not the boyfriend anymore. They're no longer or they're not the girlfriend anymore. But I think if the conversation hits a stalemate, or the conversation is something that we can't work through, then counseling or therapy is the next step. Because a lot of times marriages die on an island. That's what my pastor always says. He says marriages die on an island. And when your marriage is stuck on the island of you two, right, fellas, if the marriage is stuck on the island of you two with all these expectations that are not being met, all this disappointment, all this frustration, she won't let me lead. Her expectation of you as a husband is, I don't expect the man to lead. I lead. I'm the head. I do the work. I get the job done. So she's not expecting you to lead. Now you've been listening to us for 2 weeks. And like, well, Pastor Tim, I'm putting on Pastor Tim. Pastor Tim said I'm supposed to be leading the household. He listened to the podcast. He like, babe, I'm supposed to be leading. And she's like, no, you ain't. I've been leading this marriage for 15, 16 years. What you mean you supposed to lead? Like, and so that's where the counseling, the therapy, if you don't have a pastor, find you a good pastor that you can broach the conversation with. Pastors are not therapists, but they do provide spiritual counseling. You may require deeper work, which that's what we recommend, therapy and counseling. But I think practically speaking, prayer, conversation with your wife around the expectations, and then depending on how the conversation goes, because you may not need therapy, right? You may realize like, oh no, that's realistic. I could do that. I could step up in this area, yada, yada, yada. And then if that doesn't work, then it's like, okay, we need to get a third party in here to help us kind of navigate these these waters, these tumultuous waters we're in right now. So
yeah, no, I would add to that too. Pastor Saleem is so right. One of the things that we try to do at our church as of late is that when people get married, we set them up with a mentor couple, right? Someone who has been married for a significant amount of time. Yep, absolutely. A significant amount of time, and you connect them with this couple, and this couple serves as not counselors, but mentors with much experience, right? And if you have mentors who have experience, you may not need as much counseling. You probably still could do it and still may need it, but support is the key. Pastor Saleem said something crazy, man, where, marriages die on an island. And he's so right, because most times when I talk to people who are married and they're at the end of their marriage, when they come to me, it's like they don't have any support. They've not done counseling. They've just checked out of the marriage, and they've not done all that they can, because part of what we want to do, man, we want to help save marriages. Yeah. Marriages matter to God. You know what I mean? Absolutely. Marriages matter to God. And so we want to help save marriages, because when you are not in your rightful position, this ain't going to work forever. Something's going to go awry. Somebody's going to be frustrated. Somebody's going to be angry. That's why when you see marriages where the wife leads, even if she likes to lead, it becomes stressful over time for her. And she begins to say things like, I always have to do this. I'm always handling the kids. Why do I always have to? And your marriage has been built on that. And what's happening is it's breaking down because you are out of position. And so there is this breakdown because of we're out of position, and someone eventually starts to feel less, appreciated, I should not have to appreciate you in an area that you've not been built. I want to appreciate you in the areas that you belong in, that I belong in. My pastor preached a message years ago, and when he first started the message, it was about marriage. And here was the title of his message: Woman, Stay in Your Place. The whole congregation was like, OMG, it's about to be on in here. We
about to stone him.
And by the time he got finished, It was the most eloquently stated sermon in terms of the position of the wife and how her position is honorable. It's a place of peace. It's a place of being cared for and protected. He killed it. And at the end, it was like, yo, this was crazy. And I'm going to say this to both husbands and wives. Husbands, wives, stay in your position. Stay in your place. Husband, stay in your place as the leader. Wife, stay in your place as the one who is to be led and the one who is to help. Pastor Saleem said, get counseling, get connected to another couple. Brothers, here's the other thing. Here's another step for you. You should be getting around other men who are leading well in their marriages.
Yeah.
Get around other men. Look at other models, right?
Yeah.
Pick the brains.
Healthy models,
Healthy models, Pick their brains. Ask them, hey, man, brother, how do you do that? How do you navigate that? How do you go about this? Right. How do you go about that? And the last thing I would say on my end, Pastor Saleem, I would say this. I would say start the process and do the work. Yeah. It's not going to be easy work, especially if you've been in a marriage for a while and it's not been that way. It's going to be some pulling and tugging. I get that. But involve your wife in the process and let her know, hey, honey, baby, girlfriend, sis, whatever you call her, this is where we should be. This is where I should be. And brothers, listen, confess to her and say, hey, listen, I've not been operating in my rightful position.
Right.
And I want to. And because I want to start this process and I need your help. And I'm going to need you to take this journey with me. It's not going to be an easy journey because I know we're used to doing things a certain way. But if we do it this way, we do it God's way, then we'll experience more fruit in the relationship.
Yeah, I think all that is I agree with that. I think all that is crucial. And those tough conversations with your spouse, man, I encourage you, brother, listening to this, to engage in them. Me and my wife have them a lot, had them recently. One of the things that, as I said when we did our Zoom, the finances of our household, when we first got married, my wife, I wasn't involved at all. And it was just like, I make the money, I give you the money, you make sure all the bills are paid. And I'm like, hey, I'm doing my thing. But over the years, I've realized, I got to be more involved and even more of a leadership role in that particular area. And so it's been a process for me navigating that. And my wife has never had the mindset of, because I've been quote unquote doing this, you can't. There's been tension because she has been doing this, but I never felt at any point that she was trying to say to me, oh no, you need to sit down somewhere, I got this. She's always wanted me more involved, always wanted me more in that particular area. And it's been my context was never that. I've only seen women manage the household finances. I've only seen women lead in that area. I've always seen men work and pay bills in the sense of income is coming because of the man. So I've never had an issue with working or wanting to work or anything like that. But when it comes to accounting, bookkeeping, budgeting for your household, that's not stuff I ever really saw a man do. So it's taken me a while to even get to that mindset where it's like, okay, this is something as a man you need to be way more responsible for than you've ever been in the past. And so it's tough conversations that needs to happen. And none of us are perfect. None of us have arrived. The prayer is that you got to lace this in prayer, because you may have an alpha wife. And that alpha wife, that alpha mentality in a woman is very challenging, because if you understand, and not saying we're dogs, but if you understand a pack mentality, there can only be one alpha. There can't be two alphas in a pack. There can only be one alpha, right? If there are two alphas, there's going to be a war. And one of the things I wanted to say to the brothers is helping your wife or helping yourself understand, I'm never competing with my wife. We're not in competition with each other. We're never in competition. We're never in competition financially, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically. I love what Pastor Tim said, that his pastor preached a sermon. I'm gonna take the title and I'm gonna use that for something. Woman, stay in your place. It's just, if we all understood how to stay in our place, we would know there's nothing in God's design that pit us against each other. Nothing. From Genesis, there was not one word that God spoke to Adam and God spoke to Eve where it showed competition. God said as a result of the fall, if you go back and read Genesis chapter 3, God said as a result of the fall, now the woman will try to dominate the man. That is a result of the sinful fall. So now as Christians being reborn, we are to take on the nature of Christ. And the nature of Christ and his relationship with his bride, who is the church can never dominate Christ. The church can never oversee Christ. The church can never dictate to Christ. Right? It's the other way around. He left us his word to dictate to us, and he's going to prepare a place for us so that when he comes to get us, he's bringing us back home to the place where we ultimately will reside. That's with him. So that's the model, right? That's the model we're trying to get across to the brothers that listen and to the ladies that listen, is that, look, it's impossible for the church to dominate Jesus. It's never going to happen. And so as Christians, even if you're not Christian and you're listening to this, adopt this mindset because it will help you, right? We want you to come to Christ, but if you don't, right, adopt the mindset, the principles that the Bible preach to and speak to of women understanding their role is precious and sacred, and that support and that help and that assistant, right? I remember I was watching The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan love song, if you will, about Mike and his greatness and him being the GOAT. But Mike said something that I think was extremely profound. He said, you can never mention Michael Jordan without Scottie Pippen. He said, you can't. He said, you cannot mention Michael Jordan without Scottie Pippen. And for so long, especially in a sports context, you know, we say Mike's the GOAT, Mike's the GOAT, Mike's the GOAT, right? Mike is telling us, I could never have been the GOAT if not for Scottie Pippen. If you take that to a marital context, right, you can never mention a husband without a wife. What makes you a husband
can't be a GOAT without my spouse.
You cannot be the GOAT of husbands if you don't have a spouse. It's impossible. It's never going to happen. You can never say, oh, I'm the GOAT, I'm the best husband, unless you have a wife, and a wife that assists you, right? Fellas understand sports. The way that Scottie Pippen made Michael's job easier, that's the way our wives are supposed to make our job easier. But the reason why Scottie could make Mike's job easier is because of who Mike was. Mike is the supreme alpha basketball player. And so naturally, if you come on Mike's team, you're going to fall in line. It's going to happen. And so fellas, if you want to make your team like the 96, 97 Bulls, arguably the greatest basketball team of all time, if you want to make your family in that image, in a sense, right, you got to be able to step into that Michael Jordan role, but knowing that I can't be Mike if she's not Scottie. It's never going to happen.
Bro, you killing it, bro. That's going to preach. That's going to preach. Yo, in other words, I think I'm going to have to preach this. She should have more assists and not more points. Come on, somebody. Come on. She said,
more assists and not more points. I know that's right. That's a word.
Come on, man. Listen.
Yo, don't preach that before Pastor Tim. Y'all heard what he said.
Hey, yo, listen. Y'all can preach it. I'm going to do it my way. Y'all do it your way. Come on.
More assists.
Bro, listen, man.
Yeah.
What a time, man. What wisdom and insight. You know, I don't have anything to add. You know what? I do want to say this. I just want to backtrack really quick. Pastor Saleem said something that was really key. He was talking about the finances in his home and how his wife was handling them, and he became more involved. As he evolved, he recognized that he should be more involved, right? He allows his wife to handle the finances. It's her area of expertise. But the difference is today, he's more involved, but she's still highly involved with the finances in his home. That's a function of marriage, right? Mm-hmm. Because when we talk about roles and responsibilities, you know, we look at roles and responsibilities from a societal perspective or cultural perspective, right? Mm-hmm. But that's a function of marriage, and that's okay. What's not okay is, and he said it without saying it, not being involved at all and being oblivious to what's happening in his finances. Just saying, here, babe, I got paid today. Here you go, boom, and not knowing, right? And so my wife and I operate in that way in some sense where I know down to the penny what we have in the bank, right? And she handles some of our financial stuff. So it's a role and a function. But as Pastor Saleem says, even though, especially in the beginning, she was better and more equipped, it's her area of expertise. He said to himself, like, no, I got to be more involved in this. I need to know what's going on. And so as you see things, you begin to evolve in your relationship, in your marriage. And brothers, when you see things, they are cues for you to say, I got to evolve here. I got to get better here. And again, one of the things that you should be doing in having the conversation with your wife is asking her, what does my leadership look like to you? And let her give you the good, bad, and the ugly. So that you can grow. Let her give you the good, bad, the ugly. Take it all in stride and say, okay, you know what? Here's where I got to get better, and do the work, man. Listen, what a wonderful time together, man. Listen, Pastor Saleem, I really enjoyed myself, man. What about you, bro?
Me too, man. I've had a great time, man. This has been great, man. First 2 episodes done.
Done in the books. Can't wait to form the air. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
This is good, man. This is good, man. So yeah, guys, we appreciate you guys, and we always want to say, man, make sure you guys subscribe to Excellent Husbands. You can listen to us wherever podcasts are available. Also, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and subscribe to us on YouTube at Excellent Husbands. No, not Twitter. We're not on Twitter, but we are on Facebook. We are on Instagram, and subscribe to us on YouTube at.
We on enough stuff.
Husbands. We on enough stuff, right? And as we always say, we are not perfect husbands, but we are being perfected while striving for excellence.
Yes, sir. Be blessed.
It feels good, y'all. Just feels so good to be alive. Just to breathe this air free of charge. It just feels good to be in Christ, you know. Just to know that He got me, and He got you. It feels good.
I'm blessed. Every morning that I rise, got my health and my strength. Thank the Lord that I'm alive. I'm blessed.
To the excellent.